What is going on, everybody? I go by the name of Kari, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish. Well, the time has finally come for us to put behind us possibly the most anticipated and hyped up sneaker of all of 2022. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen more of this shoe than I think I've seen of any shoe in recent years. It's crazy to see how much hype this sneaker had behind it, but yet still managed to keep its star power and the hype enough where people went absolutely crazy over this sneaker. We're gonna dive a little bit into the sneaker. Y'all have seen this shoe 1,000 times, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but I really wanna talk about why, in my opinion, this was actually one of the worst sneakers to drop in 2022, or maybe just one of the worst drops of 2022. Without further ado, let's get into it. Boom. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Air Jordan 1 Chicago, aka Lost and Found. Well, for the 18,000th time, here's the sneaker. I know you guys, if you're watching this video and you're watching on YouTube, you have probably seen so many videos surrounding this sneaker that you know what it is. And that's why I said I'm not going to take too much time really digging into it. Of course, I'm going to give you guys the backstory if you just want to hear my interpretation of it, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into the finer details of the shoe. And then I really want to talk about the cultural impact of this sneaker as well, and why this sneaker I feel is kind of hypocritical. Let me get into it. Let's just kind of clear up the name of the shoe itself. So a lot of people said that this sneaker was the Lost and Found that used to be called the Reimagined, but according to the homie Mr. Unloved Ones, that's actually not the case. The shoe is still the Reimagined, aka Chicago. The Reimagined series is a series, like the Remastered series was a series of sneakers, and within the Reimagined series of shoes was an Air Jordan 1 that was reimagined into what became the Lost and Found, aka the Chicago. So it's actually both. But the legend behind this sneaker, of course, is that you have an old mom and pop shop that had sold sneakers way back from the 80s. They had a pair of original Air Jordan 1s deep down in the basement somewhere that was found. So this lost pair of sneakers ended up being found, of course, with a mismatched lid that is giving me Air Jordan 1 knockoff vibes, AJ1 KO vibes, and maybe somebody felt like, oh, well, there's an Air Jordan 1 box and an Air Jordan 1 top, even though it was for an AJ1 KO, versus a regular Air Jordan 1, slap the lid on the box, and what you got was the packaging complete with the sales stickers for the Lost and Found Air Jordan 1. It's cute, it's gimmicky, I like it, I'm falling for it. The box even comes complete with this faux aging and kind of rubbing off of the paint on the box. Of course, if you already have your pair in hand, you know that the box is actually a perfectly fine box, but it has this fake kind of aging that's kind of embedded into the digital print on the box. It's very, very cool. I love the packaging. To drive that point home even more, the inside paper is complete with this actual newspaper feeling packaging paper inside of it. Actually feels like an old newspaper, complete with ads that look like they were taken straight from Good Burger's account or Nice Kicks Vault or one of those vintage accounts that I love scrolling on for hours at a time. We see all these different ads complete with the old school Air Jordan 1 ad from the 80s, and of course paying homage to all these mom and pop shops that used to promote these sneakers even when they were going on sale down to $29.99 and sometimes even lower than that. People weren't really buying Air Jordan 1s back in the day, especially the 1995 retro of the Air Jordan 1 Chicago. It's incredible because a sneaker like that is worth a crazy amount of money today, but back in the day, couldn't give them shoes away. Nevertheless, very fire touch. I like that. Now that brings us to this, but we're not gonna get into this right now. We're gonna wait until after we look at the shoe to get into this. Which brings us back to the shoe itself. First impressions of the shoe, I kind of hate how much I like this shoe. I really do. Like, I really, for a sneaker that had this much hype behind it and had this much going for it, I really wanted to not like it. And I'm not really a contrarian like that, but I just really wanted to be like, it wasn't worth the hype. These are worth the hype. Let's get into it. All right, starting with the upper of the shoe here, the first thing that you're going to notice overall is that the shape of the shoe is a little different. And what I mean when I say that the shape is a little different is because this sneaker, actually, the team apparently over at Jordan Brand really took their time to dig into the original shapes of the different iterations of the original Air Jordan 1s, from the 85 to the 95 to even the 2015, and to take different elements and pieces of those sneakers and kind of recreate them into kind of what's a Frankenstein of different Air Jordan 1 Chicagos, but becomes this Lost and Found Chicago that actually works really well. What do I mean by that? I'll tell you. Let's start here with the quarter panels of the shoe. Of course, we see the entire sneaker looks aged. And of course, that goes in with the whole theme of the shoe. It's supposed to look aged. And even the leather is kind of a deeper red here, almost as if the shoe was sitting and it used to be a brighter red. Now it's a little bit of a deeper red here. Of course, you have the cracking of the leather here, made to represent, of course, how the sneaker would look if it was sitting in a basement somewhere for 30 plus some odd years. And even in the swoosh, this is where we start seeing little cues to other sneakers, other iterations of the Air Jordan 1. I'm gonna put a few comparisons right up here where you guys can kind of see a little bit more in depth the differences, but the swoosh is actually giving 1985 Air Jordan 1. The swoosh to me looks a little bit different than the other iterations of the Jordan 1 from 2015 and from 1995. So I'm getting 1985 for the swoosh. For the ball and wings logo here, I'm getting, I guess, 1995-ish vibes as well for that. So again, you got kind of 85 on the swoosh here. You got something a little different on the ball and wings logo, which by the way, I like this logo because it feels actually kind of puffed out instead of kind of embedded or embossed, debossed, whatever it is. Inside of the shoe here, it's kind of puffed out from the shoe. So that's dope. Of course, you have the cracking around the collar, which by the way, apparently was an indicator of how a sneaker was fake or real. Apparently a lot of the fake versions of the lost and founds had like bigger like lines of cracking around the collar. So this isn't really a legit check. There's plenty of real versus fake comparisons on here, but I guess just be careful, watch your pairs. All right, taking the top down, look at the shoe here. A couple of things to talk about here. Number one, of course, we get the cracked leather in the toe box. It's nice how they treated it, by the way. I'm not mad at the way that they did it, but I do anticipate this flaking off into my hand very quickly. First thing I'll say about this top down look here is that the toe box of the shoe here, the way that this leather, the red kind of comes up, but not too far on the toe box here, is really giving 2015. As a matter of fact, a quick message for Jordan Brand. I don't know what was going on in 1995. Like, I know a lot of the history and stuff like that, but I don't know what y'all were doing back in 1994, 1995 when y'all made that sneaker. But the fact that this red is just creeping up like the blob all the way up almost to the middle of the foot, to the middle of the toe box. Yikes. Thank you for not giving us that for the Lost and Found Reimagined and giving us more of this 2015-ish, almost 1985-ish looking leather as far as it not coming up too far on the toe box. I like that. Now the laces are giving 1985 because they don't come in any special bags or anything like that. They're already pre-laced inside of the shoe, 2 sets of laces. And if you guys remember back in the old school pairs, 2 sets of laces used to come in there. I think a red pair and a black pair. This time we get a white pair and a black pair. Some people have actually double laced the shoe, which I thought was really kind of interesting, but however you choose to lace it is how you choose to lace it. Me personally, I think I'm going black laces on these. The black is fly. I think I'm gonna go black. All right, moving up in there, you have the age looking tongue here. You notice that the tongue is not plain white, but of course, if it's sitting in a basement for 30 some odd years, the tongue is going to age a little bit. So it looks a little more vintage, a little discolored here. Let's move up to the tag. The font of the Nike Air on the tag always intrigues me when it comes to an Air Jordan 1 Chicago, because if you look closely, the font on the tags is a little bit different from variation to variation. However, the tag for this one is giving me 1985. And the reason why is because the swoosh is larger than you really have seen on other iterations of the Air Jordan 1 in recent history. The 2015 looks a little different. The 1995 looks actually a little smaller, but the bigger old school looking Nike Air on the tongue tag here is giving me 1985. So I'm saying that the tag is inspired by the 85 Jordan 1. Now, the shape kind of had me a little bit baffled because to me, it's giving a little bit of 85 and 95, the 85 shape in kind of the slimline look of the back of the shoe and the construction, but 95 gives us kind of this wider open kind of foot area here. So in the 85, it feels like it was a little more narrow, kind of like that, but in the 95, it felt like it kind of came out a little bit more kind of like that. Maybe I'm being a nerd, but the back of the shoe and its construction is giving me a mix between 85 and 95. Now from there on the outsole of the shoe, regular looking outsole, it just looks really ashy and really dusty, of course, because the shoe has been sitting somewhere for 30 years. And on the insole of the shoe, you got the classic white insole with the red Nike Air branding on the heel. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the Air Jordan 1 Chicago, aka Lost and Found. So, like I said, it's kind of a Frankenstein. They took different pieces of the 85, 95, and 2015 Air Jordan 1 and really kind of blended them together. But this is probably one of the best hybrid versions of an Air Jordan 1 Chicago that I've seen in quite some time. I mean, as long as we're not getting a Jordan 1.5 the return, I'm a happy camper. But there was one other piece of this that I said I was going to talk to you guys about. So let's go ahead and talk about it now. And that's the receipt, the infamous receipt that everybody has been talking about, the cool little accessory that we get in our boxes. Let's get into this because this receipt is a lot deeper than I think that people realize, and for whatever reason, I haven't really seen anybody on YouTube talk about it. But you're in the right place because we're going to talk about it. The receipt that's included in every box of the Air Jordan 1 Lost and Found is a fake receipt from the 1980s, specifically August 30th, 1986, from a fictional store called Sandy Brothers Sports Depot in Covington, Kentucky. Now, the sneaker was purchased by someone named Paul L, and the salesperson was someone named Leah N for Air Jordan basketball shoes, paid cash, final sale for the low price of whatever that says. How much is that? $19.99, $64.99, $49.99, something $4.99. I don't know. But the thing about it is there's a ton of Easter eggs within this, starting with the name of the store, Sandy Brothers. Who exactly are the Sandy Brothers? The Sandy Brothers are Chad Sandy and Eric Sandy. They're two brothers that actually both work for Jordan Brand. Eric Sandy is a color design director and his brother Chad Sandy is a footwear developer. So basically Eric thinks up the ideas for the shoe and Chad makes them come to life physically. These guys have both been with Jordan Brand for a long time. Some of our favorite projects that have come out over the years, especially collaborations, these guys have had a hand in. So they're legends when it comes to Jordan Brand in a lot of the releases. Just like a lot of other designers and developers, they're a little bit more behind the scenes. But lately, with a lot of different sneakers, we've actually been seeing the brand allow these guys to put their imprint and their stamp on a lot of these hyped up products and a lot of these new shoes, this being one of them. The brothers are from a small town called Latanya, Kentucky. And if you Google Latanya, you'll see that it's actually a small neighborhood within Covington, Kentucky. So Covington is a real city in Kentucky, and it's actually where the brothers are from. But it gets a little bit deeper than that. So the address of Sandy Brothers Sports Depot is 2323 Jeb Bernhardt Way. Now, 23, we all know Michael Jordan, but Jeb Bernhardt, what's the deal with that? Because I feel like everything was intentional with this receipt. And after doing a ton of research, I think I might have found where the inspiration for this Jeb Bernhardt Way thing comes from. So there's a furniture maker and designer that's pretty notable within Covington, Kentucky, named Brendan Bernhardt Gaffney. And like I mentioned, he's a bit of a furniture maker, kind of a woodsmith, does things like that on a creative end. But the interesting thing to me is that his business is actually called Bernhardt. And for someone whose business is called Bernhardt, that actually does a bit of design, but more of like on the woodworking front and more industrial front like that, it's just interesting that his business is called Bernhardt and he's also from Covington, Kentucky. So maybe a coincidence, but if it is one, that's quite a coincidence. All right, August 30th, 1986. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't know what in the world happened on August 30th, 1986. I was trying to find it. The best thing that I could find is that 5 days before that is the infamous shattered backboard game where Michael Jordan shattered the backboard at that exhibition game overseas. But on the 30th, I don't know, maybe y'all can help me out. Paul L. Now, it's been rumored that Paul L. is a gentleman named Paul Leslie, who is a director of infrastructure over at Nike and has very close ties with the brand. So maybe he's somebody's boss, maybe he's somebody's friend, maybe he's somebody that had some input on the project itself. But I believe that Paul L. is actually Paul Leslie from Nike. And that brings us to Leah N. Even Leah N. is a real person. That's Leah Nagengst. Leah Nagengst. I hope I'm not getting that name wrong. I'm probably butchering it. But Leah is actually a design director of materials at Jordan Brand as well. So Leah works very closely with Chad and Eric Sandy on a lot of different projects for Jordan Brand. So there's a lot of love and a lot of Easter eggs that are within this little receipt. So it's really, really special. It's so special, as a matter of fact, that the brand actually didn't even want us to see this receipt before the sneaker came out. But because we're in the culture of early leaks and everybody putting out photos with their hands and their Rolexes on it, because let's be real, the cloud is a thing, the receipt got leaked. And apparently a lot of people were not very happy about this at the brand. But once it was out, it was out. So there wasn't really much that we could do about it. It kind of took away from the storytelling and the impact of the shoe. So if I'm Chad and Eric Sandy, I am pretty disappointed about that. But at least the people resonated with it and they were really excited about it. So I guess it's a win at the end of the day. And that brings me back to the shoe itself. Now that's really all that I gotta say about the shoe. But here's the thing about it. Like I said, this sneaker was probably one of the worst drops of the year, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, the SNKRS app really took a nosedive when it came to the way that they handled the release of this sneaker here. Now, for what we know, this sneaker released a little under 330,000 men's pairs from all the back-end hackers and stock number screenshots I've seen. I don't know how true or not that is. I never know how true or not those stock number screenshots are, but I guess that's all we have to go off of. So if that truly was the case, unfortunately, botting at sneakers is a thing these days. If y'all don't know, botting is back on the Sneakers app, and it's back in a major way. As a matter of fact, I think Sneakers, or one of those apps that runs bots on sneakers, boasted on social media that they had over 9,000 checkouts for an estimated profit margin of almost $2 million, kind of laughing in the face of Nike and the brand, saying, haha, we got all your shoes. So not only were the bots an issue, it was incredibly difficult to even get into the draw. Number one, they did a draw on the shoe, which kind of sucks, but I understand trying to control the traffic, so I guess I get it. But a lot of people ended up taking L's on the shoes because their local stores and boutiques did not have as many pairs as people thought that they were going to have. And then on top of that, the Sneakers app really didn't give us much reprieve either. I mean, I took L's on 30 raffles trying to get this sneaker. So it's been really, really difficult to get your hands on it. And of course, when that happens, the resale price starts to go up and the cycle continues. So I feel you guys' frustration when it comes to the L's that got taken of a sneaker that was supposed to be for everybody. I'm really sorry about that. Now, my hope is that there's restocks and second chances coming and things like that, because apparently a lot of stores either didn't get their shipments or their shipments were moldy, so they got sent back. So I'm hoping that this is going to have a happy ending, and a lot of you guys that may not have been able to get your pair yet will be able to get your pair. But it is what it is. It's technology. Now, the second thing that I had an issue with when it came to this sneaker is that it feels kind of hypocritical. If a sneaker could be a hypocrite or a contradiction of itself, it would be the Air Jordan 1 Chicago Lost and Found. And the reason for that is because we take a beautiful story of a mom and pop shop and we create this incredible sneaker around it down to the packaging. And yet mom and pop shops are disappearing left and right like Thanos snapped his fingers, because Nike's been pulling contracts and pulling back allocation to spearhead their direct-to-consumer strategy. So it feels like a major slap in the face to be shutting down all these mom and pop stores and then to make a sneaker that shouts out, let me check my notes, mom and pop stores. It's just something that's really kind of haunting about that, and almost seems a little, I don't know, I guess I'll save the strong words for offline, but I get the shoe. It's a good shoe. It tells a great story. A lot of people are calling it their sneaker of the year, which, let me put this on record now, this is not my sneaker of the year at all. Stay tuned or subscribe if you want to see what my top 10 list is this year, because my goodness, Complex's list, I don't even want to talk about that. But this to me isn't sneaker of the year. This sneaker is sneaker of the year for a lot of people because it was hyped up and it gave us the collab effect. Let me explain. The collab effect is when you have a sneaker with special packaging and accessories, and it tells a really cool story and it does something really, really dope. You don't normally see this for a regular non-collaboration Jordan brand product, especially for a product where there's this many pairs available. So I think it made people feel really special that for once they were finally able to get their hands on a pair of shoes in a Chicago colorway at that told a really cool story, came with a little Easter egg accessory in the box, special packaging, and it had a ton of hype around it. So I think because of the hype and because people felt so accomplished getting this shoe, it made it people's sneaker of the year. But when all of this kind of rose-colored lenses wears off, if it's still your sneaker of the year, I respect it. But for me, this ain't my sneaker of the year. I'll end on this note. The Lost and Found Air Jordan 1 Chicago is a good shoe. I'm not mad at it. Like I said before, I kind of hate how much I like this shoe, because for all the ways that I was feeling, I was hoping that I could find a reason to pass on this shoe. But I can't do it. It's just that good. Jordan Brand and Nike did an incredible job making this sneaker. They did what they had to do. And my goodness, if they didn't knock this one out of the park. So salute to the team at Jordan Brand. Salute to Chad and Eric Sandy. Salute to everyone involved with this project. This was one for the history books, and I think we're going to be seeing and hearing about this sneaker for a long time to come, despite the fact that we've already been hearing about it for a long time. All right, that's pretty much all that I got to say about these. Now it's time for you guys to sound off down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about the Air Jordan 1 Lost and Found Chicago from the Reimagined series. Are these ones that you guys had on your must cop list? Is this your sneaker of the year? Sound it down below. Let me know if you took an L, did you catch a W, how many pairs did you get? All those good things. Go ahead and dialogue down below. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts about these. Of course, right down in the comments, make sure that you click on that subscribe button so we can welcome you into the Sneaker Phetish family, to make sure you don't miss out on any more heat that comes through like these, because I guarantee you I got a lot more heat on the way. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish, taking a look at these with me, unboxing them with me for a couple of minutes. I go by the name of Kari. This is the Air Jordan 1 Chicago, aka Lost and Found. And until next time, I'm out.